Welcome to the New Overlords Podcast, where we talk about video games. I'm Max, and with me is someone who never needs to catch up because she always arrives exactly when she means to, my co-host, Sema. Hello there, Sema.
I must be a wizard.
Neither early nor late. Yes. Yeah.
Hi, Max. How are you?
I am doing great, and we're going to talk about catch-up mechanics a little bit today, which I think will be pretty fun. But yeah, I do find myself in that situation from time to time where I play a game. I love to play the games when they first come out. I love to play each expansion when it first hits, and then I get distracted really easily. So coming back to it or coming brand new into a game that's been around for 10 years, I just thought it was a fascinating concept. And I know you've been doing a lot of WoW remix. So
Yes, I have.
yeah, so I think we're going to have you educate
actually,
us on that to start.
Whenever there's a new WoW X pack in particular, I do always have this thought of, you know what? Why don't I just wait until they do the catch up? Because it's always so fun to play when everything is like super powered and fast to get, and
Yeah.
yeah. I
And
never can wait, but yeah.
and as soon as pre-patch gets here for War Within, there's even more of that coming. But WoW
Yeah.
Remix is a special case, so that's a
Yeah.
fun twist that we'll get to talk about too. But first, we've got a little bit of other news to talk about.
Good news, everyone!
This is a fun one that I'm definitely amused by because that's how these things go. Elden Ring, the Elden Ring DLC is both loved and hated, as all things are these days.
So Elden Ring is finally getting the internet treatment.
Apparently, it's both too hard and just right, and you're a noob, and you need to get good if you think it's too hard. Both at the exact same time, and nothing in between. So one of the things that I was fascinated by is, just as everything else with the small g gamers providing the visible feedback, it's the reverse bell curve. It's either terrible, give it a 1, or awesome, give it a 10. And there's 45% of people giving it a 1 and 45% of people giving it a 10. And everyone else in the middle of the, of the whole bell curve, if they kind of just come into blindly into a scenario and say, yeah, it's okay, then the 90% on those two ends will just tear into them, because either they're wrong, it's not just okay, it's terrible, or they're wrong, it's not just okay, it's awesome. So it's like, that's not the way reality works. If you talk to any real people, either A, what's Elden Ring? Or B, yeah, that's pretty good. Or yeah, I had a good time. Or no, it's a little bit hard for me. It wasn't that great. It's not.
I mean, I wonder what the curve looks like. Well, Elden Ring is its own thing, but I wonder what the curve looks like if you're somehow were able to get all players instead of just the players who write comments at the end of magazine articles.
That would be interesting. And if there was ever a way to gather that data, well, in some ways, it's definitely not a perfect statistic, but player counts and purchased, how many people have purchased the game and not refunded it, those kinds of, if you put all of those signals together, you can probably get a pretty good picture.
Right. Like we can know like how many people are playing it, sort of, but we don't know where they fall in your reverse bell curve.
Right. Yeah. I don't know. Like, I guess there could be tons of people hate playing it. They're all in the ones, but still playing it. That's actually, there is probably a ton of people doing that. You see that in the MMO feedback forums, the official forums, which you can't get into a lot of the official forums unless you have a subscription, like Star Wars: The Old Republic is this way. And you will have people that spend their lives in there. So they're paying the subscription and they spend their lives in the forums talking about how terrible it is and how much they hate it and how this game should die and never come back. And then they pay the next month's subscription. So yeah, I don't know. Maybe you can't. Maybe there's no way to get a good picture of what the people in the middle of the bell curve are.
Well, right. And like we don't know of those, that person that you just described, that could be like 0.0002% of the population, and we wouldn't know it.
I would expect the actual bell curve of people playing has like a giant silent majority.
Yeah.
And you're right. We would never get like especially not the
And
difference between how many people are rating it for 4 versus 5 versus 6. Or, or like, or 4 versus 7, which is what I would expect that most games should, I mean, if it's successful at all, it should be somewhere around 7. Cause no, it's hard to be a 10 every
I
game.
mean, yeah, right. And with Star Wars: The Old Republic, I think there's a huge number of people that just love the game. They love the setting, they love the outfits, they love going after the outfits, and they
Mhm.
don't really care about the things that people are complaining about.
Right. I don't think they do. I loved this
Same with
game
Lotro,
rant,
probably.
this related game rant article. And there's no right answer to this, but I really like the concept of asking this question and thinking about it from a philosophical perspective. The small G gamers will say that there is an exact right answer, of course, and it will be different for each person. And they will say that their opinion is fact, but it's should Souls like games have an easier difficulty option? And the reason it's a complex question is because you kind of have things, there's sort of a lot of dimensions, but on one side, there's this whole idea of accessibility of your content, both accessibility to people that need accessibility options, but even just accessible to broad swaths of the gaming population to be able to get your product out there and for people to be able to experience it for all the good things that it has available. And then there's, on the other side, you have concepts like just editorial creator intent and what they're trying to create and the experience they're trying to create. And they want something to be very hard. So that exists for their community or their idea of what a game can be. Not every game, FromSoft isn't saying every game should be this hard. But
No,
yeah, so I think that's a really interesting question philosophically.
I th- I would think so too if it wasn't worded with the should, because basically, like you just said, it's what you're trying to create. If what you're trying to create is this smaller community of gamers that are really dedicated to doing things over and over again and having a high level of difficulty, if that's what you're trying to create, then you don't need easier difficulty options. If what you'd like to do is grow and embrace a different kind of player, then you absolutely need easier difficulty options.
Right. And
And
Forster is saying, yes, there even are things built into the game that can potentially make it easier. And yeah, that's true to some degree. A lot of them are very opaque. You'll hear very experienced players of the game say, I never realized you could buy the thingamabob and apply it to the Gom Jabbar, and suddenly boss Smacky Pants is 5 times easier. If
I think you totally just made a great boss name.
if you read all the guides and have all of the meta text available to you, which is a world we live in, I mean, that's an aspect of sort of the gaming meta out there, meta text, then yeah, there may be options really for most people to be able to play a game like this. But without that, and having to rely on that for everything that you do, and grinding to out level as much as possible and all of those kinds of things, is that really making it accessible? Maybe. And maybe that's what they intend, but maybe that's not enough for a lot of people to give it a broad accessibility.
I mean, to me, this is a little bit like the argument that you shouldn't make special things accessible to anyone but me. Like, I worked for it, nobody else should have it. If you can't be good enough to get it, then you don't deserve it.
Yes. And if you read the comments under this Game Rant article, there are all of those people that give off that vibe. Is I'm elite and you don't deserve to play this game if you're not as elite as I am. No.
And, as a developer, if that's your jam, that's your community that you want,
Right.
then
And that's right.
create the game for it.
And if FromSoft wants to go that direction, yeah, it's not bad at all. I mean, no one, the people that are doing the X games, the elite sports games, or the Formula One race car drivers aren't going, we should really have a division of Formula One where kids can drive these Formula One cars and we have bumpers and slow mode, and it's a different thing. You can have this. You can have a very, you can design for a particular audience and a particular performer and a particular customer in mind, and that's cool. So yeah, again, there's no right answer. And to be clear, there isn't a right answer. So all of these people that are telling you the right answer in these forums, indubitably, they're all just no. Here's the exact right answer. No nuance. No, nothing in the middle. You're wrong. I love this.
Yeah, I mean, should there be a level? Should there be a cow level in Diablo?
Those people don't need to be catered to. Okay, well, they don't need to, but what if they were? And could you, can you hold multiple concepts in your mind? That is a sign of intelligence, to be able to understand nuance and hold multiple concepts in your mind and be able to argue both sides of a discussion. It's okay to do that. You don't have to only pick one or the other, the most extreme option, and then call that fact, and anyone else who doesn't agree with your fact is dumb. Just putting that out there. Just so you know. Here's another one. I guess this is another divisive topic. You brought this to my attention. I knew this kind of existed. I didn't really realize it still existed. Tell me about what Project Ascension is, or maybe we shouldn't even talk about it because, geez, this is.
I think we
can
because
like
the way it came to my notice was an actual YouTube ad, and it was produced. It had cutscenes, voiceover, everything. But what it is, it's a private World of Warcraft server, and it's not the only one. There's a handful of ones that are considered, I don't know, legit. Like, and by that they mean
who said that?
Semi.
Sorry, Stask One chat. Sorry to interrupt.
It's a moot point.
Should there be a cow level in Diablo? There is no cow level in Diablo, so it's a moot point.
I know.
Anyway, yeah, Ascension.
That was worth a digression.
These private servers, yeah, well, and you said that, yeah, there's ads for them, but then as we were digging into this, and I'll still want you to describe it, but you can hear all about them on the Blizzard forums.
Well, yeah, I mean, people do bring them up on the Blizzard forums, so that is, I don't know, it's a whole world out there.
Yeah.
And like Ascension's claim to fame, and I think every private server has things they do, but their claim to fame is it's basically classless. Like you can pick your favorite abilities from every class to make your hero. So you don't make a rogue or a mage or a paladin. And I can definitely see the appeal of that. But then, you know, when you ask them, is your game safe? They go, well, make sure you run your virus check.
Oh, yeah.
It's perfectly safe. We run a virus check, but you should run yours too.
Right. And is it legal? I will make it legal. No.
I don't know. I don't know. I don't know because I read a lot of that Reddit thread that you showed me, and it was a bunch of it was a WoW subreddit. It was a subreddit, but it was WoW related. But people were saying that because of the way they, I don't know, reverse engineer the server side, it's somehow not illegal. And the client is free. I mean, you can download the client, and I guess, you could use it to roast marshmallows or something. But yeah, so I guess it's
at a minimum, it violates copyright. Because they're
at a minimum, right.
They're using copyright trademarked terms.
And trademark,
Yep.
yeah.
So at a minimum, if
So
not,
that's a civil issue in that Blizzard would have to decide, is it worth it to go after?
Right. Then there is still the question of, does it violate things like Digital Millennium Copyright Act because of the way they reversed engineered or not? And maybe that's something that could be litigated as well. Maybe Blizzard just doesn't choose to.
Yeah,
Ascension
like
isn't the only
Forster.
one either. There's others.
No, that's what I was saying. But yeah, Forster said it's legal if you're in a country where it's legal.
It's legal on the
So,
moon, but but but
um, so I mean, I guess the question for me anyway isn't so much is it legal since that seems kind of gray, but it's
yeah,
like, do you really want to? And also, is it safe?
is it safe? And like kind of like is it right?
And yes, and is it that's kind of yes, you're right. That's what I meant by do you want to?
Yeah. And I would argue that no, it's very much not.
And
Eh,
what I don't think these private servers, I don't think they're for people who don't want to pay for WoW as much as they are for people who want to play the WoW they want to play. Like when private servers were the only recourse for people who wanted to play vanilla WoW or Burning Crusade or Wrath. It wasn't that they didn't want to pay for it so much because I'm pretty sure you have to pay Ascension, by the way, even if it's only with a cash shop.
yeah. Well, they are making money, and they have been doing it for a long time.
Well, they've been doing it for long, and they're definitely making money. But I mean, literally, and then when I started looking into it too, people were saying things like, "Oh yeah, it's all over the ads are all over Facebook for me." I'm like, so it's not like they are under the, you know, under the carpet. They're like going, "Hey, everybody, we're a private WoW server. We're really cool too."
Yeah. So,
It was eye-opening for me. I
right,
feel like I've been, I knew they were private servers, but I didn't know how out there they are.
right. And the extent that they still exist. And in fact, because I haven't thought about them in a while, I do remember back when I heard that Vanilla WoW was getting launched. So this is a while ago now. I was thinking, okay, well, this is going to kill private servers. But nope,
Right. And just like how the WoW token was gonna kill gold selling,
gold
it did
selling.
not.
Yeah.
Yeah.
May have cut down on it in both of those cases, maybe, or maybe not.
Maybe. Yeah. Maybe.
But for players like in these threads and discussion rationalizing it as, no, it's totally cool. I mean, Blizzard deserves for players to do this. No, it's not. It's not totally cool. I mean, I
But the
get if you're going to do it and you say that you're not going to get punished, so you want to do it anyway. Still not
I
right.
mean, in a way, I kind of applaud what Blizzard did with the WoW token and with having Classic WoW because basically what they did was they said, okay, people do want to buy gold. Let's make a way where we benefit from it too, and we can make it safe for them to do.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
then, okay, players do want to play older versions of WoW. Let's make it a way that we can benefit from that. And how, I don't know how they benefit from it, but I think sure they do. And they can do it in a safe way.
Yeah. So interesting. Just an interesting concept that came up for us this week. And yeah, it is really weird to to read about it on threads on like the Blizzard forums that Blizzard is not taking down. I don't know how I don't know why they would allow these discussions to persist. You know, here's a 6-month-old thread on the WoW forums. Hey, what's the deal with Ascension WoW? Oh, it's a modded private server. Oh, you know, it's long, this long thread. That's somebody posted even recently, 7 days ago. Yeah. So weird. In the game releases news, I wanted to call out a couple things. There's one that was sort of being tossed around within our gaming community. It was on our Star Wars The Old Republic game night on Tuesday. A couple people were talking about 7 Days to Die.
Yeah.
We are survival fans. I'm typically not, so I haven't played 7 Days to Die. It's on my list of one of those ones that I want to get to at some point. But I'm not a big fan of survival horror. But it's not horror as much necessarily. So I could potentially get into it, at least to try it out and play it for a little while. I like this concept though, and I think this is what makes it interesting, which is the way they describe themselves as survival horde crafting game. So it's a survival game, but it's the zombie horde that you're sort of trying to survive and surviving against. Why is this in the news now? Because after like 10 years of development, they have finally hit what they're considering, and I think it's not even officially released yet. It's on their test branch, but the 1.0 release of 7 Days to Die. So So people keep describing it, and I've seen this before. So Stask just said in the chat room, it's like Minecraft with zombies. I don't understand that, but
Really? Why not?
how much? What do you mean, like like Minecraft?
Because it's like Minecraft because you're building things,
Okay,
and then
but like, is it? I mean, does it even have deformable ground? I don't think it does. I think it's like
well, I
Rust
mean,
with zombies. Like if
okay,
you tell me it's Minecraft, I would expect the, you know, digging and deformation and destructible environments and all of that kind of thing. Minecraft, and then the other part of Minecraft is the procedural parts of it that allow you to start with zero. So there's like nothing in the world, although you can also have like the zombie, the quote unquote kind of zombies in Minecraft.
okay. The way I took that comment was like, when you start out in the game, you have to build something to protect yourself from the zombies. Just like in Minecraft, you have to build something to protect yourself from the night
The
creatures.
creeps. Yeah. Okay, maybe. Yep.
I
That part
didn't
of it.
go in
Okay,
my
that
mind. It
gameplay
didn't
loop.
go down to yeah.
That's I like that's good. So that sort of fits it a little better. There's still if the zombies are the creeps and you're trying to, you got to protect yourself from the creeps before night or something, then yes. Uh, a lot of games, a lot of survival games, you know, Ark is Minecraft with dinos, but is it? But yes, you could
I
almost
mean,
just everything could be Minecraft with
you're
WoW is
saying that to a
Minecraft with quests.
you're but you're saying it to a person who hasn't played 10 survival games and can tell you the minute differences between each one.
Yeah. So that's what the game developer that's how they pitched it. Is that what you're saying, Stask? The way a pitch goes may not. Sure, you know that's valid. It's valid to pitch it that way, especially if you could be saying no. It's much more like Green Hell crossed with, crossed with Temples of Apshai. Okay, well, what are those two? Those mean nothing to me. So you do have to put it in
Right.
vocabulary that everybody kind of understands. So then you could say, well, okay, well, think about Minecraft. All right, I get Minecraft. Okay, so it did start with two friends playing Minecraft together. I don't see Minecraft in it, but I play a lot of survival games, and because I see a whole bunch of other games that I would have described it as to start. Anyway, beside the point completely. It has now hit 1.0. It's an indie version of a Survive the Horde kind of survival crafting game, and that's cool. I like that concept, and maybe I should give it a try because our community keeps saying Lego Fortnite is Fortnite with Legos. but that is. But it actually is not. I would call Lego Fortnite Minecraft with Legos. Oh no, see what I did there? Yeah, so 7 Days to Die. We'll have to see what that looks like. If a bunch of people are going to be playing it, then I'll definitely jump in. We got to, especially if we can play together. Can we play together? I didn't even check it how multiplayer it is. How many people can you put
Yeah,
together to
they can play
survive?
because I watched Dask and Machete play together.
All right. Well, hit me up. We'll survive some zombies. Sweet. Machete will give us a tour of his world. Wow, that sounds fancy.
You might not be lead enough though,
Yeah. I might need to catch up. I might need some catch up mechanics to survive the zombies there.
Right, you might.
And then in other release news coming this week, there's this little tiny indie game called Final Fantasy XIV that apparently they've got a little release coming up. A little bit of content is the little indie team. I love it when an underdog can like get a little bit of a thing out there. Dawn Trail. End of the week, I think Dawn Trail Early Access starts. So this is definitely exciting for all of our Final Fantasy friends. We'll talk about catch-up mechanics and why I play Final Fantasy from time to time. I tend to play a little bit. It's weird. I tend to play a little bit when each of their new releases come out, and I never play the new release when it comes out because of the catch-up mechanics in Final Fantasy. So we'll get to that shortly. Why that is, why I think that Final Fantasy has one of the least accessible catch-up mechanics for existing or even new players. Not that there aren't shortcuts these days, but why that doesn't really work that well for Final Fantasy. Just throwing that gauntlet down there. 1 out of 10 is bad experience. The right answer is it's terrible. No. Anyway, that's about it for the news this week. Thanks to everyone out there. As always, if you need any of the subscribe links for audio or video, you can find all of the links to everything on newoverlords.com, but it's also in a few other places besides New Overlords, like your Amazon Echo. You can ask that to play it. It's on a few of the other streaming services as well in weird places. I keep finding it in other places. That's sort of those podcast platforms that comb the internet and find RSS feeds. We have an RSS feed, so it gets pulled into like Google Podcasts. I didn't put it on Google Podcasts, but it's there, I think. Special thanks to everyone that hangs out with us live here on Twitch or in our Discord. We are in that Discord pretty much all day, every day. Happy to talk about all of the things going on there, like what we're playing at the moment. And also don't forget, if you're looking for that big family-friendly gaming community that might be playing the big MMOs like Final Fantasy, but then small stuff on the side like 7 Days to Die, you can find that in our gaming community, Alea Iacta Est. So that's all at aie-guild.org. Our AIE Discord is the place to jump in. There's a bunch of channels for all of the major games. Then a channel called Nomads where you can ask, hey, is anybody playing this small thing? Like we got a couple of people playing PAX Day still, and they're talking about it in the Nomads channel. Jump in there. We'd love to hear about what else we should be looking at, both there and especially in our New Overlords Discord as well. All right, Sema.
I used to be an adventurer like you. Then I took an arrow in the knee.
I used to be an adventurer like you. Then I took an arrow in the knee.
I used to be an adventurer like you. Then I took an arrow in the knee.
From time to time, we may be adventurers in these various worlds, and we may metaphorically take an arrow to the knee. This is where that's going. And be out of it for a while. So there's two things that got me thinking about this. One was definitely WoW remixes, which we're going to really focus on for the majority of this. But for two, then, to broaden that concept, especially for these long-running established games like Final Fantasy, like Star Wars: The Old Republic, like World of Warcraft, when you've been
Like
out
Guild
of it
Wars,
for a
like
while,
Lotro. Yeah.
when you've been out of it and you're trying to get back in, there's potentially barriers there. And different games try to get around that in different ways. And when you're brand new and there's these 10-year-old, 15-year-old MMOs out there and you're jumping in fresh, new player, new experience, that's also a potential barrier. How games deal with that, what interesting ways there are to deal with it, what WoW is doing with both the new player experiences and WoW Remix to bring people back and WoW pre-patch. It's all really interesting to me. I wanted to dig into that a little bit. So we'll focus on Remix. I have a couple notes that we can sort of toss around back and forth on a couple of the other major franchises as well. But I spent only about an hour or two in WoW Remix, but you've been playing quite a bit, haven't you, Sema?
Yes, I've been playing it for, I think, 2 weeks? Yeah, something like that. A week or 2 weeks.
So for people that don't know at all, describe WoW Remix.
Okay. So what its full name is something like WoW Remix Mists of Pandaria. So basically they took this zone, Mists of Pandaria, they made a separate copy of it. You create a brand new character and you play in this special area. You can't play in the rest of the world at all, but you can play in this special area. And the goal, there's a couple of goals by playing Remix. There's goals for Blizzard and goals for the player. And one is you can level to level 70, which is a current cap, really fast, like a few days of gameplay, or a few hours of gameplay. But also you can go after tons of transmog, which is like outfits, cosmetic wear. And you can get a lot of the rare mounts, toys, pets that were available when original, they're available in retail now still too, but available in original Mists of Pandaria, things that you might have been farming forever and a day and finally gave up on, you can earn currency in WoW Remix and buy these rare mounts and just, then you can be done with the Shaw of Anger, for instance.
Right. Which people might have
And
been grinding
also,
for years to try to get that rare amount, right?
right. And it's the thing about that Shaw of Anger grind in WoW is it's not like it's a challenge or anything. It's just a bunch of travel and
Right.
then waiting.
And
then the boss takes
super
10
low
seconds to
drop
die.
rate, and you can only do it like what, once a day or once a
Yeah.
and so it's boring.
Yeah, I think it's once a day now.
Yeah. But yeah,
Right.
some of it
It's
used to be like
boring
once a
and time
week.
consuming because of the travel.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. And
So,
and
and then when you
disappointing,
get,
disappointment after disappointment for years.
yes, that actually, you're right. That feels bad,
Right.
which is not usually what you're after when you go to play a game. So there's that. Then there's also when you get your character to level 70, there's an end game in Remix. Well, actually, you don't have to be level 70. The end game starts from the beginning. You can do any end game activity in Remix from the very beginning.
Okay.
I mean, not every single content, but you can do dungeons and scenarios at level 10. At level 25, you can start with the raids.
Interesting.
And you can, yeah. Anyway, so that's how it works.
Okay. So that part I'm going to
But
want to dig into in a
at the
second.
end of Remix, yeah, and then at the end of Remix, and by the end I mean the date when it's over.
Yeah.
That character that you created and it's now level 70 will go into the retail, and whatever server you were on when you said, okay, I want to create a Remix character, that's the server that character will be on.
So can you get out of Remix into the regular game before then?
No.
Or not? Oh, no. Did you say no?
No, you cannot.
Oh.
I did say no.
Oh, interesting.
You can't get out of there. It's completely separate. One thing I haven't tested is I don't know if you can mail back and forth. However, there's nothing you need from your other characters when you're in Remix. So I've just never been tempted to mail myself something.
Okay, well, that's a misconception then that I had. I was thinking of this as
yeah. When I first started hearing about Remix, I thought what it was you level up to 70 and then it shot you out into the real world. But no, you're in here until the end.
Interesting.
And basically, which allows you to spend however much time you want accumulating the currency, which is called bronze, to buy these rare things that I was talking about. So like for instance, the mount, since I use it as an example, the mount from the Shaw of Anger costs around 40,000 of this currency. And you can make about 40,000 of this currency by leveling a character. If you do nothing special and you just level to 70, you'll have enough currency to buy the mount from the Shaw of Anger. If you do other things that make more currency along the way, like I personally have had 40,000 bronze usually by the time I'm like level 35 or 40 in Remix. So if I wanted to, I could go buy the mount from Nalik, the mount from Shaw of Anger, the mount from Undasta, and the mount from Galleon right now today, but I'm kind of dragging my feet because that's what I do, right? Like I'm going to wait till the night before and decide what I want what I want to buy.
Yeah. Hopefully they'll have a vendor even after you get kicked out if you got a bunch of currency left over and you forgot to spend it. Hopefully.
I don't want to
don't want to count on that.
Depend on that.
but yeah, that would be nice. Oh, okay.
But what's interesting about this though is these things do not drop in Remix. So like even though I go and I kill the Shaw of Anger, it's not because the mount might drop. Like in the beginning, people didn't understand that, so they were saying, "I'm going to wait on buying the mount in case it drops," but it's not going to drop. For some reason, the idea is the challenge of getting the mount to drop is being replaced by the challenge of getting the currency. They didn't want to make it. It's like really easy to kill just anything in Remix, right? So I guess they didn't want things to drop because of the increased easiness of making things happen.
Interesting.
So you have to earn the currency and then pay the currency.
Okay, so in my mind,
so
this is not a catch-up mechanic for players to like level up a character. It kind of is that, but it's even less that than I thought. In that,
It's the Go ahead.
oh, sorry. No, I sorry. I thought you were breaking up there for a second. No, no, go ahead. So is it
No.
or is it not a catch-up mechanic
So
for players coming back to the game, in your view?
it's like it's an invitation to come back to the game for players like me, because the more time I spent outside of it, for one example, players like me, the more time I spent out of retail, the more sort of bewildering I found it because of how different it is from what I've been playing,
Yeah.
and how much you had to know. So like the lure of Remix is nothing, all of that you don't know doesn't matter, because you're just going to learn this new, really simple set of rules and everything's going to work. Like I go in a dungeon, it's just going to be fine.
Now,
I go in LFR and it's just going to be fine. There's no like, unless you play your class perfectly,
yeah.
things
Right.
won't die. It's not like that. it's like
it's fun. It's a different.
everyone is so overpowered.
That's why this is giving me
It's a completely different.
the vibe that it's a different. It's kind of like a different game. Like it's just another
Yeah.
game mode, and catch up, not no catch up, new to the game, not new to the game. It's kind of just like a different game, like WoW Hardcore. You know, classic Hardcore is a different game. Like classic Vanilla is a different game. Like you know,
Almost like Warcraft Rumble is a different game.
yeah, like yeah, almost as far as Warcraft Rumble. In fact, a lot of the things I see in here, I see like a lot of Diablo in the way of some of the subsystems are working. The power,
Yes.
the borrowed power that you're getting in the way you're sort of like leveling up. There's a lot of Diablo-ness happening in WoW Remix.
Right.
But when I rolled the character, I was still interested in rolling a character with the thought in mind, and I rolled a rogue because I don't have even a level 70 rogue. I thought, hey, this would give me an opportunity to level up a rogue, and if I want that alt ready, I could have that alt ready to go and play to War Within.
Yeah.
However,
right. And you don't want necessarily to just roll another hunter, right? Because you got that.
Except I don't know. I don't know if that's the right way to look at it. Now because it's so close to the end and it's ending well, it's still June, so it's 2 months. I was still thinking, I'll come in here, I'll spend a couple weeks, I'll have a rogue, and then I can have my rogue and, maybe even like do pre-patch. When it or to just like go and play the end of the current content, the Dragonflight. But I can't, because I'm in this till the end, and then I could
in a pre-patch.
Yeah, but that's I not pre-patch, because I would be able to do that because that will be past the end. But I can't play for 2 weeks and then go take it into the regular game.
No.
Yeah.
The idea is if you continue playing in Remix, like maybe you make another alt, or maybe you do the end game in Remix, because there is an end game. Like you can do, there is a gear grind. There are heroic and mythic versions of the raids. Your team may want to do that.
Okay. So this may pull me back into the
interested in that. So
pulling me back into the World of Warcraft world, but not catching, quote unquote, catching me up to my friends necessarily in any way. Because maybe my friends are doing some of the final Dragonflight raids, and if I spent a couple weeks on my level 80 hunter and tuned up my gear, maybe I could jump in there, or at least do LFR and catch up. But this won't help me catch up one bit in an interesting way.
Well, okay, so I think the way to look at it is you can play with your friends in the War Within.
Right.
If you're looking for a way, there's other catch-ups if you wanted to log in and raid with a current raid team right now, if that's what you meant by playing with your friends.
Yes. And by catching up, I'm kind of thinking of like catching up in the WoW retail product, to people that are like doing stuff now and if I wanted to do like like the AIE Noob raid on Saturday nights, if I wanted to have not go in there basically naked, which is what I would expect my gear is equates to nowadays.
No,
This has no bearing on that,
you would have
and it's a
you'd have
different
to
thing.
take advantage of you'd have to take advantage of the catch-ups for that are in retail, because this
Okay.
isn't for existing characters. It's a new character and not a new player per se, because I think a new player might have fun, but I also don't think a new player would learn how to play WoW doing this necessarily.
That was another thing I thought was interesting. So explain that, because I agree. I don't think this is. I would not recommend this to a new player who wants to play War Within. Only,
And also, I don't know that they could, because if you're a brand new player, like if this WoW has never seen you before, they're going to funnel you down a different starting experience path.
yeah, okay.
That is Exile's Reach, and then you go to Battle for Azeroth.
So I
which
wonder
is
that if you don't even
very-
have that button at the top that says roll a remix character.
I wonder. Yeah, you might not.
Yeah, interesting.
Or if you do, it might. I don't know. I don't know. Maybe someone, because I don't have a way of testing that out.
Yeah. But tell me then, okay, so then, well, let's finish that thought. The reason I don't think this would work at all, or I would not recommend it for a new player that kind of wants to get into WoW and learn WoW and play War Within, is because the way Remix works is really cool and fun in its own way, but will teach you nothing about the gear systems and enchanting and how to upgrade your gear and how gear drops. You're gonna have to
Maybe.
unlearn. Well, maybe.
Maybe.
You're thinking War Within could borrow these concepts from Remix, and everybody who plays retail today is going to be confused and bewildered when they come back.
I think that
doubt it.
I think that a lot of things, they're saying a lot of things will be different. Like
Yeah,
we
it'll
can
be
talk about
interesting to
Preach,
see.
which addresses some of those things.
Yeah.
But that is one question I have about this, is like, when I do get dumped into retail on my remix character, and they take away my magic beans, basically, which is the cloak, how are they going to make me feel successful?
Or make you feel whole at all and be able to
Right,
do anything.
right. Like, how am I going to be happy for my cloak to be gone?
I mean, and they're going to
Like,
have to
I'm
take
sure-
your gems away too, right?
I feel like they have a plan. I'm sure they have a plan. I just wonder what it is. But I need to play in a similar level of power that someone who's just been playing retail all this time. So I can't go back to retail necessarily and have my 750k health.
Right. But you also can't go back naked,
Right.
because then what do you do with that?
I'm really curious about how that's all going to work out. But the reason I was also, when you're leveling though, I mean, because the first thing we are going to do is level. So leveling doesn't really.
Yep, and greens will be the new purples and
Right. And also in Remix, really, they could go hog wild, right? Like, balance doesn't matter. It doesn't matter if rogues can do less damage than mages, because everyone's doing more damage than is needed.
Yeah.
Which is a cool freedom to have.
Yeah. Yeah.
Anyway, so let's talk a little bit just for basics about how this works. Is like, I've mentioned the cloak a few times. It's like, the cloak is a magic thing that you get right away, and basically throughout your playtime in Remix, you get these things dropping from everything called threads, and threads apply upgrades to your cloak, and your cloak has all the stats, including an experience multiplier. So as you gain more threads, your cloak gets more powerful, and that is a big source of the OP aspect of your character. So there's the cloak and the threads.
The cloak of infinite potential.
Yes.
And I definitely felt that even right away, like 5 minutes into it.
Right. And then as you level through the world of Remix and do different activities, you get more and more, especially the experience multiplier. And that, I mean, it just makes it faster and faster. You know how, like, the typical leveling experience, you level really fast in the first few levels, and then the last 10 levels are really long?
Mm-hmm. It's the opposite,
kind of
right?
it's kind of against that, right? Because you're getting more and more of an experience level.
Yeah, I think someone said you kind of start with around 100% of what you would experience like the first 10 levels, and then it goes up to an additional 324%. Well, maybe even more, whatever this
No,
is.
that's just an example. Yeah.
Yeah, it's
I mean,
just
I don't have that much experience gain on my alts. I have but I have over 200.
yeah, crazy.
Um, so that's cloaks and threads. And there's also the things you mentioned, gems, and the gems also drop everywhere, and they're in the chests and stuff. Every quest reward is a chest. There's no quest rewards that are gear. It's just all chests. So whatever quest you do, the reward is going to be a chest.
Yep.
And inside the chest, you might get threads, you might get gems, you might get gear. But what the gems do is there's 3 types of gems. One type just gives you stats.
Embark on an entirely new.
Sorry.
And
Let's do this.
right, so you can add stats. One type of gem gives you abilities, and one type gives you mobility abilities. And so you can, for instance, if like on my mage, who natively has blink, you can also get blink as an ability, as a drop. So like you could conceivably have 2 blinks, and one of them is going to benefit from your, your spec, right? Like if you go into shimmer and you get 2 charges of blink, and then you also have the gem-based blink, you have like 3 blinks. Or you could get roll, like the monk roll.
Yeah.
Like on my rogue right now, I have the monk roll and the regular sprint that a rogue gets. So that's really cool, but it's also necessary which I'll get into in a minute. And then the last thing is the currency, bronze, and that basically
Bronze Dragonflight bronze is what that bronze is. Yeah.
that's what it's based on, right? Because this is meant to be. So the whole sort of overarching little story about this is the infinite dragons, whoever they are, the bronze dragonflight. You're reliving the story of Pandaria in order for them to understand it better.
Yeah.
And that's the sort of the excuse of why it's kind of telescoped to kind of collapsed, that you can do it so quickly. You're just showing the story.
So they're helping guide you through it because that's helping their research. Sort of almost like a little Groundhog Day, and they get to watch.
But in a way, the bronze is the most important thing, because that is the part that allows you to acquire things that you'll be able to retain on your retail characters.
Right.
So like when you buy,
besides the base character itself, which will exist probably with all of these abilities and everything, and your cloak gone or broken, the currency is the stuff that you're earning for your kind of account, right? So like mounts are account wide now and that kind of stuff too, right?
yes, mounts are account wide. I don't know. I mean, I'm going to spend the currency. Like I don't think the currency is going to exist afterwards. But yeah, like the mounts are account wide. But here's the thing: if you buy any of the outfit stuff, which is transmog stuff, customized stuff, that's going to be available to all your characters too.
Nice.
But here's how it's really critical overlap between Remix and the pre-patch, is because one of the changes coming in the War Within is that your character will be able to acquire transmog pieces whether or not they can actually equip it. So like the way transmog works is you can't equip something if you're a cloth wearer unless it's cloth.
Right.
And when you farm transmog, you can't add it to your transmog unless it's something you can equip.
Right.
Starting with this pre-patch, you'll be able to acquire it. You still can't equip it, but you can at least acquire it. So if you save your bronze up until the overlap time, then on your character that has 300,000 bronze, it's a mage, but you can buy the rogue stuff that you've wanted, but you haven't been able to because you didn't have a team for your rogue or whatever.
Oh, but you can't do that until pre-patch?
Yes. Yes. So in a way, I think that's what people are, or some people are anyway, focused on, is doing the activities that are going to give them bronze, because that adds to their experience not only in Remix, but forever going forward. Whereas, like, if you do upgrades to your gear, that makes it more fun in Remix, but that doesn't carry forward into, eternity, like the transmog stuff and the mounts and the pets and the toys. There's a ton of toys. Not,
Yeah.
yeah, it's
If
so
you
that.
if you've been
Go ahead.
playing the whole time on one character in WoW Remix, would you have enough currency to buy all the things or not? Is it way more than that?
I don't know. Like they did set it up so that it's very hard to hit any kind of cap. The cap on bronze is 2 million.
Okay.
And the character I have the most on is like, I don't know, 280,000. So I'm not going to, there's no danger of me hitting the cap. So there's no like decision point where you have to say, oh, I better buy something.
Yeah.
You can save it all for the end.
They showed a
But I
flash in here of one of the shop pages of like the gear and stuff. It seemed like a lot. And if you're telling me like there's different sets for the, like a different set for each of the different classes, it may be more than 2 million if you
I
really
did
wanted to
see
get everything.
someone on the internet that did some math and say that you could buy it all with like 1.8 million bronze.
Okay.
So it's not, I don't think that's impossible. I think that's if that's a pretty hardcore decision if you want to do that.
Got it.
But I don't think like I've been playing for 2 weeks and I have maybe 300,000 bronze
that's quite
across
a
my
bit.
characters. Yeah. And imagine if I was spending my time farming bronze.
Right. If that was,
'Cause
if you were sort of optimizing for bronze, it could be different.
Yeah. Yeah, because I've been sort of more, I don't know. I haven't really been optimizing for anything.
Yeah.
But if anything, it's been more for the experience multiplier on the cloaks because I've been doing a lot of group content, and that's where you get that the most. So they say.
Yeah.
Another big difference between Remix and the retail world and just how you spend your time is there are no like timed events. There's no, event that's going to pop up in,
Or dailies or reputation or.
No. There are
Oh,
dailies.
oh,
You can do dailies, and
okay.
I do dailies every day. But what I mean is there's no like thing that's going to happen in town log steps every 4 hours, and if you're not there and there's not a good group, you're not going to learn how to make soup or something.
Okay.
All those retail ones
Yeah.
that
Or like in Fallout 76 this week, where now I have to once per hour at the top of the hour go and do the Fosnacht event to get all of the drops.
yes, like
Yes.
that.
Okay.
And in the War Within pre-patch, there will be those timed events.
Okay.
So I mean, it's not like they're going away or anything.
Yeah.
So there are dailies, but let me just point out too. I don't know how I did it, but I was messing around in Jade Forest and I did like something, and I hit. No, I was messing around in Town Log Steps, and I got exalted with the Shadow Pan. Like
Oh.
all I was doing was just questing. So that is collapsed. I think that's collapsed also.
Oh.
I don't know.
Well, that's.
And there's a set of achievements that are remix achievements, like do this on a remix character. They call them time runner. Do this on a time runner character.
That's weird. I mean, for some people, that in and of itself, like the reputation grinders, the people that aren't trying to get like a exalted in every reputation and maybe missed a couple, and there's a Pandaria one, going and doing it here in Pandaria, that could be really beneficial.
I think that's I think that's also different now because in the War Within, I think they're going to make reps in general be like across your war band, which means across your
Oh,
account.
that's right. It's not yet. I keep thinking it is.
Yeah. But I do still think
Okay.
I had to do it because there's a pet.
Oh,
There's a pet that I don't have that was in Town Long Steps. If you finish the story, if you finish this rep, if you did a few other little things, you got the pet.
have to.
And
But I noticed you saying you have to. It was required
you have to if you want
for
if you want
it
the
was
pet.
a SEMA
Oh yeah,
requirement.
I had to, right. Like there's
Oh,
not a
it's
lot
my
there's
life
not a
now.
lot of there's not a lot of pet. Well, actually I thought it was going to be a big deal because one of them was the rare treasures and one of them was the rare kill the rare NPCs. But it's actually I didn't realize this is like find 2 of the rare treasures and kill 2 of the rare NPCs. So it wasn't onerous at all. There's not a lot of pet battle content in here. In fact, the normal pet battles that exist in Mists of Pandaria, the tamers, the dailies, and all that stuff doesn't exist. You cannot engage those pet battles. You can battle regular critters out in the wild, but there's no reason to. I mean, it gives XP and you can like level your characters if you wanted to, but if you're going to do that, why would you don't there's no reason to do it in Remix. You might as well do it in retail.
Yeah. Okay.
Which I think was probably, I don't know if it was a considered decision, because the point of this is like the sort of wild racing around and killing everything. So the people who you can learn fishing but not cooking. There's no professions, no gathering, no nothing. And fishing, I don't know why you can learn fishing, but the picture, and I think the idea of Remix is not that you're going to spend time playing with pets or fishing or doing that stuff. You're just running around, doing, and like when you're waiting for, like on the Isle of Giants, which is where this Undasta world boss is, and it's just people with all these elites.
Yep.
Like when you're hanging out waiting for Undasta to spawn, people just run around killing the elites because why not?
Why not?
You might get 1 or 2 bronze from it.
Bronze, man. Gotta get them bronze. Okay.
Yeah. So it is definitely its own little world, but it's the last thing that I haven't really gotten to, which is how I've been spending a lot of my time in the last few days, is in the group content. So the group content is scenarios, dungeons, and raids.
Okay.
And I alluded to this earlier. On your level 10 or 11, because by the time you get out of that little starting area, you're going to be like 11 or 12.
Yep.
You can queue for heroics starting then, and you might as well if you want to queue. So, like, there's a daily quest you pick up at the every zone has a area where the vendors are, and those are the vendors that sell the transmog we've been talking about. They also give these 3 daily quests. One is to do a scenario, one is to do a dungeon, and what is to do raid. It's not exactly that. It's like the dungeon one says to kill 2 bosses, and the raid one is kill 2 bosses. So you don't even have to do the whole raid.
Okay.
But you might as well. So you do the heroic scenario in the heroic dungeon, and then you do LFR raids when you get to level 25. The reason I've been doing that is it's like super fast paced. It's just fun. You're just running all the way through these raids. Like some of them I'm just playing catch up. I'm barely getting things looted. By the time they've killed the next boss, and there's 0 drama, right? LFR is like famous for drama.
Link your achieves, man. We're not adding you to the group. Yeah.
And I should say, looking for raid is what LFR means.
Yeah.
It's a group finding tool for raids.
Like a automatic pug system to.
But there's a lot of people that are running normal raids and heroic raids, and so they're either doing that with their guild or they're using the custom group finder to build these groups. So there's no automatic way to do dungeons, but people are doing that. And that's why I was saying there's in-game. And they're probably doing it for the experience multiplier, because raids are the best way to upgrade your cloak.
Okay.
And they're doing it for bronze.
Okay.
They might be doing it for gear upgrades too, because if you're playing it,
to be clear, not for fun, because that is not what this is about.
I've been having fun. And it's fun for me too, because I didn't play Mists of Pandaria, so I don't know these dungeons.
Yeah.
And sometimes, or the raids. And so I like, if I'm like looting and I look up and everyone's gone, I'm like, I have to look at the map and see where they went.
Yeah, I soloed the whole beginning and leveled up my character in Mists of Pandaria, but did not touch very much of the end content. Definitely not the second half where the raids were at and stuff like that. So could be interesting to get in there and see that. But
it was amazing because as a group, our raid team on one night early on, we went in and ran some heroic dungeons, and it was much more like the experience of running dungeons. We had to like figure out the strategy. We had to, not the strategy, but the mechanics. We had to like, some things we did wrong and had to try it again and all this stuff. So when I used the dungeon finder and got in a group, I was totally unprepared for how much it was just like you just run all the way through to the end.
Just like plow all the way through. And loot things.
And part of it is because there's always at least not always. I've been in some groups that didn't have a level 70, but that's very rare. So one or two level 70 people who are just running it because they want the rewards for them daily, and
Get some bronze, and they're
they could,
overpowered
yeah,
and carrying. Yeah.
they could yes, they could probably solo it, and your job at that point, if you're a low level thing, is just to keep up and not be annoying.
Yeah. Yeah.
Which I kind of like. Following
Cool.
I can do.
Yeah. Okay. All right. So that's Remix, which is enlightening. It's not everything that I thought it was. It is interesting that. Okay. So here's my thesis. Blizzard, the World of Warcraft team, they've got like all of these many worlds of Warcraft, and this is yet another that they thought they would put out there just as like a fun game mode to tide people over, the people that because they always probably see an engagement die off at the end of an expansion. A fun thing for people to do while they're waiting for pre-patch and War Within to get here.
Well, right.
Fun
Well,
rewards coming out of it, but
more than that too. Like if you picture them like sort of hitching their wagon to the star of War Within, right? Like Chris Metzen coming back, and we're gonna do 3 X packs and blah 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 blah. They want to draw people in for the War Within. So yes, keep people engaged during the drought period of the X pack, but also lure me back in.
Yeah. The weird thing is now the way you've described it and sort of like laid it out, I am less likely to go back and play it now that I understand what it is. And I almost am more likely to go get on my hunter, clean it up a little bit, tune it up, and get ready for pre-patch.
Yeah.
And that's where I would want to focus my time.
And that's a solid alternative.
Yeah. So it doesn't do it doesn't do everything that I expected it might be designed for, but that's fine.
No,
but it's
it's
interesting.
really, that's why I said in our notes, it's really not a classic catch up.
Yeah. Not at all.
You can't, the actual catch ups are already in the game, and then the pre-patch will be another set of catch ups.
Okay, let's go to that. Let's spend a couple minutes on both the catch up and the new player experience, which probably people that haven't played WoW in a long time don't even realize there's a kind of a new player experience. How many years old is the new player experience now these days? What did you say you go to as a new player now? What's it called?
Exile's Reach.
Exile's Reach. I don't think I've ever been to Exile's Reach.
I think it's been a couple of years.
Yeah, but it's not super new, but I don't think I've ever been to Exile's Reach. So there is a new player experience in WoW, and there are catch-up mechanics. So let's go through both of those, and then I want to sort of compare and contrast. Now that we know what WoW Remix is, we can sort of set that aside because it's like a special thing. Then talk about like Final Fantasy and Star Wars: The Old Republic and how their both new player experience and their catch-up mechanics kind of work instead. So new players to WoW Exile's Reach. It's just, how far does it get you?
That's a classic starting zone. I don't know, level 10 or 20. I don't.
And
really
and then
remember.
you go to time. Then you go to Chromie and pick a zone to finish. Get into 70.
If you're a brand new player, you go to Battle for Azeroth.
Oh, okay, so it's a starting zone that kicks you off, gets your character created, learn your class a little bit, and then boots you directly into the new. So at 7, are you level 70 when you come out of Exile's Reach?
No, you're level 10 or 20, whatever. But you do your leveling. You start your leveling in.
Oh, in
Battle for
BFA,
Azeroth.
which is before Dragonflight, right? Okay.
Yeah, it's
I
like
was thinking Dragonflight.
No, it's
Okay.
It's 3 X-Packs below, and then you can play it for I think you play it for however long, and then you can go play other zones if you want to. I don't know. I don't think you're like trapped in BFA. I think you can go anywhere from there if you want to.
Yeah. Okay.
Like if you're following the start experience, that's what they want you to play BFA. But I'm not sure of how trapped you are there.
Okay. But they've got a new play experience which teaches you the game, which I think is really necessary these days, especially in MMOs, traditional style MMOs with like tons of abilities and tons of systems for gear and gear power and how that all works. you gotta have that for new players these days.
Yeah.
It's a lot. I hear people sort of compare and contrast getting into a game. A lot of modern RPGs, ARPGs, you have like 5 abilities. You know, it's things that can be played with a controller. So it's action, you have 5 abilities. So you got a character, you have 5 abilities. You get gear upgrades, but it's like you got a gear drop, it's an upgrade because it says it's an upgrade, you just use it. Whereas again, that's something that you might need to learn in some of these MMOs. So WoW needs to teach new players that. Having something like Exile's Reach to teach new players that, I think, is appropriate. And then slotting them into before the current patch, but giving them flexibility, I think is fine.
I mean, really, the current patch is you have to be 60, 58 or 60. So yeah, they have
What's the
they
cap?
had to
It's 70, right?
70.
Okay.
Yeah.
I keep thinking it's 80 because I'm comparing it to Star Wars: The Old Republic. Yeah. So
Yeah.
wherever they drop you off before that, far enough where you can get from, you know, from whatever, even like 20 up to 60, wherever you come out of Exile's Reach. But it's enough where just within the one X pack, just within BFA, you can get up to 60, right? If you just do all the story
Probably.
and side quests, I think it's designed that
Probably.
way.
Yeah.
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 So it's not like you have to like play through a bunch of expansions and play through a bunch of story, and which you kind of
Right.
do need to do in Final Fantasy, which we'll get to in a second. So and then you're kind of like, you learned the new player experience, you're caught up playing through one of the expansions, then you can get into the current expansion, and now you're kind of at least close enough. Well, how close are you? So this is another thing then. So that's new player. Say me, this is what I did. Dragonflight dropped. I was 60. I jumped in Dragonflight. Cool. Got my dragon, leveled up to level 70, played through most of the story. I don't even know if I finished the story. And I'm level 70. I got some, you know, a couple pieces of gear. Maybe I ran a couple dungeons, and then I was done. Say I wanted to go well, not Noob Raid, because they're really nice there and they'll bring anybody. But say I wanted to like reasonably jump into some, like even LFR for the last group
So,
content.
okay.
Could I even do that now?
LFR does have a gear level requirement that you probably wouldn't meet.
Okay.
But like every season of WoW so far, there's always catch up. So you would have to do some catch up.
Okay. And how?
But
and how do you
it's
do
probably
that in WoW? Just run some dungeons?
I don't know what it is right now.
Yeah. Okay.
Like
Interesting.
in earlier times, it's been they created world bosses that could drive stuff, or they had
Yep.
quests, introduced quests that you could do, or
Dailies with
content that
currency.
you
Maybe you
yeah,
could buy some stuff from crafters to fill in some
because
gaps and things like
I
that.
haven't been playing retail, so I don't know. But I do know that at the end of each season, they just make it really easy to catch up to if you haven't been playing, so that you can play at the beginning of the next season.
Yeah.
And that's just a gear catch up.
What's it? 5 months ago. Best way to catch up. They're saying words in here that I don't even understand. What was this? Shadow flames? Is that what somebody said? Oh, well, you just get the shadow flames and you.
Yeah, see, there is one. There always is something. That's why I was saying earlier, like I'm tempted always when something new comes out to like wait 3 or 4 months
Yeah.
and then play the fun version
Right.
instead of the frustrating version.
Either that, or a lot of times what I've ended up doing the last couple expansions is just wait till pre-patch or wait till the expansion drops and go in with my junk level 70 starter gear, because then you're getting like level 71 greens, and
Which
you're
is what
fine.
which is what you've done, which is what you did last time too. I mean,
Yeah.
it doesn't address what you're talking about
Right.
now,
I'm
but
not catching up to anybody except
right.
by the time I'm level 80. Is it going up to level 80 or level 75 in War Within? Do we know yet?
We do, but I don't.
By the
'Cause
time
I
you're level
didn't.
80, you will have caught up, because if you're level 70
Right.
and you have the best gear, that may take you through about level 78. But by the time
Right.
you're level 80, everybody's
Well,
kind of caught up.
except for the introductory gear level for LFR is probably going to be a little bit higher than quest gear, so you have to do some heroic dungeons so that you can do
Right,
LFR.
but even
Like,
that might be lower than level 70 peak is what I'm guessing. So everybody's gonna have to do that.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, everyone
Yeah.
will have to do it.
Yeah.
Right.
So you'll
right, right.
you'll be caught up by 80.
It's just that
You'll be caught up
all
to
your
everyone else, not that you'll be able to get into LFR. You'll
well,
just
I
be
mean,
caught
you'll
up to
be
everyone else.
so
If
like
day 1, if you were world first level 80, you will have caught up to everyone else power-wise.
yes.
Yes.
Well, no, no. I mean, because I'm not sure I get your question because like there's going to be people who will by the time you get to 80 already would have run heroic dungeons and geared up
No,
and
if
they're
I'm saying if
already
I'm
ready.
world first 80, if I'm world first
Then
80, no matter where I started or what, if I was naked when I
oh, I
started
see
at
what you're
level
saying.
70, if I'm world first 80, I've caught up. I
Right.
didn't have to do anything to catch up or get raid gear, or it didn't matter that I
Right.
didn't do any of
I
the
mean,
raids.
you won't be able to raid, but yes, you will be as high as anyone.
Right. I will be as high as anyone else. So I'm just talking about catching up with other people. I don't care
Yeah.
what's going to come
Yeah.
next. Because then I'm going to quit and wait for the next expansion anyway. Okay. All right. So let's talk about Final Fantasy for a second. And Final Fantasy people will always say, well, you can do story skips, you can do you can do job, you could get a new job skips. There are a couple things. However, if you ask anywhere, Final Fantasy players will tell you never do that. Never do a story skip. So the way you're supposed to quote unquote catch up, or the way you're supposed to be a new player in Final Fantasy, is kind of like the hardest way possible, which is, well, you do what I did. You do what I did 10 years ago. You roll a brand new character and you play through every single piece of content. And when I say single piece of content, I mean every dungeon and every raid. And you can get into those and you can do them these days because they still make old players not make, but old players are incented. It's part of the rotation. It's their daily, they're sort of like they're doing their dailies and they're in there. They'll help you along and people will help you. But you do every single quest, every single piece of story, every single piece of content. That's the recommended way to do it. And this is why, even though I buy every expansion, I'm still, I think, 2 expansions behind in Final Fantasy, and I never, ever catch up.
Yeah.
Which is weird. It doesn't. I know even they've even fixed some of A Realm Reborn, which is the sort of like the first, the base game, which you could think of sort of like as classic WoW, the vanilla leveling experience, or the 0 to 50 experience in Star Wars: The Old Republic, all of the original chapter stories, the class stories. They've fixed that so that it's not as mind-numbingly long as it used to be, but it's still long, and it's still, they've only taken out like some of like the side things, but you're still playing through all of that entire story. Now that's kind of the point in Final Fantasy, of the point of the game, and they're again trying to stay true to their vision. These days, you can buy a story skip that will drop you into current content and skip a bunch of the story. So you can't complain too much because that option exists. However, the fact that everyone will tell you don't do that and you're crazy if you do, because it's not the point of the game, I think is interesting. So
Yeah.
it's definitely different than a lot of other MMOs, whose point seems to be to get new players in a relatively quick way to joining up with and being able to partner up with and be in groups with and be in teams with current players.
Right. And I will say that Remix is about that too, right? It's just that you and the person that you want to play with would both be in Remix.
Yeah.
You can't use Remix to then connect up with them in retail, at least not until Remix is over.
Right.
And it sounds like in Final Fantasy, you're just always behind the 8 ball.
Yeah. Yeah, unless you want to put in all the time. Even in playing it like I tend to do, which is I will spacebar every single cutscene and have the 4 or the 6-hour YouTube video, which is all of the cutscenes from the expansion. And literally, they're like 6 hours or 8-hour videos on YouTube. And I'll have that like playing on the side, playing on double speed continuously while I'm trying to like just do quests and spacebar everything actually in the game and try to keep it relatively consistent in where I am in the story. Even then, I never catch up, which is crazy.
Right. Right, because I don't know if because is the wrong word, but you're also kind of playing that game in the most tedious way possible, and then you get tired of it.
So maybe I should buy a story skip, watch the stories on YouTube, and then be able to like be in the current content. Because then I would at
Maybe.
least be able to talk about it with the people and not get to
And
the
hang
point
out
in, you know, the content that's now 3 years old or 4 years old. I mean, like, I don't even think, yeah. So we did Stormblood, Heaven's Ward, Stormblood, Shadowbringers, and Walker. I think I'm like halfway through Stormblood.
Right, right.
So I'm going to get to like like some plot pivot point in the middle of Shadowbringers and go, guys, can you believe, Dobie, got
Right.
his freedom? And they'll be like, yeah, woo, good job there, Max. Welcome
Or
to
they'd be
3 years
if it was
ago.
me if it was me, I'd be like going, "Who's Dobby?" I don't remember
Yeah,
that.
exactly. So it's interesting. The the complexity of the systems is also something you really kind of need to learn in WoW to some degree. People will say WoW is more complex than Final Fantasy. I don't think so. I think Final Fantasy systems are more complex. Crafting, I think, is more complex. The professions, I think, are more complex. There's just so much to learn that it takes a long time, I think, to really get into Final Fantasy. As an example,
Right.
it's one of the most popular MMOs, though, so it's not necessarily bad. It's just sort of like a different end of the ease of access for both new players and returning players, that kind of spectrum of where things could end up.
I think when you have a long-standing game that is constantly changing, it's gonna reach a level of complexity that, like, they all share. Like, I totally think if I was to go back to Lotro today, I would find it very complex.
I think for a
Even Guild Wars, which technically only has 4 abilities, you still have to swap out those 4 abilities.
yeah, and there will be systems creep, like Guild Wars
And there's
added in like the advanced classes. And
Yeah.
and they'll have like new ones that are now available. And if you want to get into
yeah.
that, you need like learn it and learn what it is and how to figure that out. But sometimes it's these MMOs, they'll like redo they'll redo professions.
Right.
And when they redo professions, like they did in Star Wars: The Old Republic, about maybe like 5 years ago, 6 years
Yeah.
ago. Um,
Long time.
if they did that regularly, they could collapse and simplify and make it more accessible to new players. As an objective, that can really upset current players, though, that really love both the complexity that they already learned and like their place in the in the crafter hierarchy that they've earned. So it can be a double-edged sword to take some of that away, or to simplify things, or to collapse abilities, or to collapse levels.
My
That's always kind
experience
of double-edged.
across games with crafting is they don't necessarily simplify. They change it. They change it. And sometimes they make it more complex. Like
Sometimes.
crafting in Dragonflight is disastrously complex.
True. In trying to make it more interesting for the players that do like it.
Yes, yes. I applaud the goal,
Yeah.
but it was too complex for me for it to be fun.
Right. Yeah.
Well,
like,
and also I had conflicting
Yeah.
wows.
Right. Star Wars: The Old Republic. Now this, I was sort of like searching around, and this thread came up just 2 days ago. Star Wars: The Old Republic is very new player friendly when compared to other games, and people are sort of discussing this and have their opinions, and most of it is kind of agreeing with this. It's a game that the way you get into it and the new player experience, there's sort of like two new player experiences. There is a skip where you can create a character. If you wanted to actually catch up to existing players, you can skip ahead. And it's not hard to level up to max level, and you don't need much at max level to be able to play most of the current group content with other players that are playing it. If they're at the highest tier, which again, the tiers are relatively flat too. There's sort of like story mode, veteran mode, and master mode, and some operations don't even they only have 2 modes. If you're playing master mode, most of the players in the game can't even do master mode no matter how long they've been playing. So if you're getting up to like story mode content, you can almost do that as a brand new player to the game within, I would say with, not super casually, but like within a couple of weeks. The recommended way, though, to play for a new player is kind of like the way we all played, except it levels you up really fast, but is also really fun, which is play the class stories. So you can play the class stories and you'll level up to max level while you're just playing your class story. And in fact, the leveling is so quick and the levels don't matter. So you can ignore the levels. You'll be level 80 by the time you finish like chapter 2 out of 3 of the original class stories. But that's okay. And it does it because levels kind of don't matter because all this content sort of gets scaled to you'll be a little bit overpowered, and maybe that just take your gear off, go naked if you want it to feel a little more challenging. but
Right.
but those original stories for a brand new player hold up, and people will talk about that. Just as a lot of the original stories in a lot of the games kind of hold up. So if you're in it for the story, that's good. That is a strength of Star Wars: The Old Republic, so that's good. It's not as flexible as Guild Wars, where you can sort of like jump around and do the chapters in any order. Guild Wars is very horizontal in that way. You can sort of like really do it out of order. Star Trek Online is kind of that way too, where you can do things really out of order, but it kind of is okay and it makes sense. The stories are almost happening in parallel. Star Wars: The Old Republic, there is a progression to all of the stories and the expansions. But you could be doing all of those and already have caught up while you're still doing that and do group content with your friends if they have like a weekly game night, and then go back on the off nights and casually play through the story to catch up on that stuff. Crafting, you don't have to like complete an expansion to get to get your crafting up to speed. That is all sort of disconnected. So yeah, I kind of agree with that. Star Wars: The Old Republic is both very new player friendly, and then in that way, because it's kind of like the same catch-up mechanic that the new player has, for returning players, it's kind of relatively easy as well. What's your perspective on that? You think that's true, especially for like the returning players? What is your view on that, Sema?
Returning players for Star Wars: The Old Republic?
Yeah, like when we have
I feel
players
like
that have been gone for a while and they come back, I think
I
it's
think
a pretty low
I think
barrier.
it's kind of bewildering when they start asking questions about gearing. But in terms of just getting started, I feel like it does a great job of getting you into the game and the story right away. And you get a sense of who your character is. Yeah, and everything you need comes to you.
Yeah.
So you don't have to be like a savvy player that knows the market in order to gear up your alts effectively. You can just play the game and it works great.
And because for the baseline content, sort of the story content, the baseline gear that you just get at level 80, you could just buy it for a pittance. That'll suffice for story. Then there is gear progression kind of for fun. It's relatively flat. Like that was
Yeah.
always a problem. It was a barrier I always felt in World of Warcraft, was the gear progression at max level is extreme. Like,
Yeah, it is.
like you get in there with like the fresh, level 70 gear. Like if I went back now, I've got a bunch of level 70 gear, even if it's like all purple level 70 gear. If I got into an LFR, I would be the lowest of the low, I would be doing 1/10 of the damage of the rest of
You
the people.
you wouldn't be able to get into an
Oh, I
LFR.
wouldn't even be. You're right. I wouldn't even be able to get in. It's like, what the
Yeah,
hell?
because there is a minimum. You would be able to get into Noob raid because once you do normal raids,
Right.
you don't have that
Right.
limitation anymore. But the
And they
LFR
would
level,
pull me in and they would carry me on Saturday
right?
night because they can and they do and that's cool. But I would be at the bottom of the. I would be like off the chart doing
Right.
my best, like with a good rotation because of how steep the gear curve is.
Yeah. And
That's
I think
not the
that
case in Star Wars: The Old Republic. Not
no,
at all.
no, it isn't. And it's weird in WoW too that, and I think Star Wars also, because they're constantly doing the scaling. And
Yeah.
so like in WoW, I've been in tons of situations where you're in a group of all different levels and it's like the mid-level players that's doing the most damage, or it's the low-level player that's doing the most damage. Same with Star Wars. It's sort of like you blow through things at level 45 that you go back at level max level and it's like, oh, this takes longer. you know
Yeah.
so yeah, there's always that.
Guild Wars. Guild Wars is really interesting, and a lot of people talk about it being both new player friendly and definitely returning player friendly in a lot of ways, because gear in Guild Wars is relatively horizontal. So you could come back to Guild Wars as a returning player after a couple years, and your character kind of still works, which is, I think, really interesting. And the gear that you might be getting might be tuned up, and there might be new gear sets, and it might affect your character in other ways, but there isn't like a big power curve. So you might have like spent, 2 years ago, 3 years ago, spent a bunch of time to get a legendary uh, weapon, um, which is like this long progression. It still works. Whereas if you got a legendary 3 years ago in World of Warcraft, it probably is like doesn't exist, or they they took all its they stripped all the stats off of it and doesn't
Right,
work
right.
anymore.
But like
Um,
Eflux makes a good point. If you To really learn the skills of your class, you do have to spend some time on it in Star Wars. And
yeah,
that's true. But you can also play pretty much anything in the world just, hitting your abilities when they light up.
yes.
It's like if you want to
You're not
do
going to be
group
able to do
content,
Nightmare. Yeah. You're not
right,
going to be
do
able to
group
do vet mode or master mode flashpoints, and you're not going to be able to do Nightmare content or
or
vet mode
even
operations.
or yeah, I mean just any type of play with your friends, any type of group content you might want to know more about your class, you
Yeah.
might be motivated to, yeah.
Yep. Uh, and that
Yes, and
is,
also,
yeah,
yeah,
that's a good point.
the skill tree has changed several times and how it's implemented has changed several times. So yeah.
And I think that happens quite a bit with a lot of the games. And the games where that doesn't happen, that is quite refreshing to be able to go back to a game and realize that your muscle memory kicks back in and you can actually play the game. ESO is very horizontal progression, but the meta, the way your character needs, like the rotation and the way you need to, you have like 10 abilities. You have 5 abilities per bar, and you swap bars by switching your weapon. You don't have to. Some classes you can play with just 5 abilities, but every time they have an update, again, it's quite horizontal. But your rotation might have completely changed. And the meta, like what gear you should have if you actually want to do the end game content, might have changed. And that might change like within a day. It's not like there's a progression. It's like the new expansion dropped, the meta has changed. It's now everybody needs to get this set, have these abilities on their bar, and this is your new rotation. Which is weird. And you do need to learn that and look that up, and you need to go to the build sites to sort of figure that out. But you can get away with your old rotation and your old gear for a lot of the content and a lot of the getting through the story and that kind of thing. But doing like the group content, you kind of need to get learn the new thing, and you're sort of like stuck with it. The combat kind of ropes you into that there. Guild Wars 2, I think, is a little bit that way. I think Guild Wars 2, you're still gonna have to like learn anything that they changed. But I haven't gone back to Guild Wars 2 in a while. Every time I went back to Guild Wars 2, it didn't feel like there was that much of a barrier. The bigger barrier for a lot of the MMOs, and this is really, for me, it's for all MMOs, is I get back into the game and maybe I can play my character and maybe I can play group content. Maybe I can play with my friends and there's not that much catching up, but my bags are full of junk. And maybe
I know, right?
there's awesome treasures in here, or maybe it's all garbage and you don't know. And I have like 100 things and maybe I have to like go to a wiki and go through 100 things one at a time and like figure out, okay, toenail of troll. Is this like some awesome treasure that's really important? Or do I vendor this? Or do I put it on the auction house? Look up toenail of troll. And okay, it's not even in the wiki. I guess this is like, it was a quest item and it's not even, I don't know. So,
I know. Every once in a while, I'll do this thing where okay, I'm just going to get rid of everything. I don't care what it is. I just want the space more than I want the
I
items.
declare bankruptcy.
And then I go and I start looking at things and I vendor them or I blah, 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 blah. But then I end up cleaning out like 10 or 15%. It's like I can't get rid of, I think, well, I don't know what this is, or maybe I'll need this, or it's an extra job inventory.
Yeah.
And yeah, I mean, we haven't mentioned it, but the gear update feature of WoW right now, where when you log in, they'll give you current gear and clean out your quest log and everything. That's cool and everything, but they mail all your current gear to you. So it's like if your bags in your bank were full when you left, now you have a bunch of mails
It's worse.
of all your inventory. Yeah, it's worse. It's like,
Now it's all sitting in the mail and it might expire. So now not only was it like sitting around, he had to figure out what to do with it. Now there's like a time lock, time's ticking.
yeah,
It's even worse. Yeah.
I literally have logged into retail before, took a look at my bags and logged back out again because I just
I
like
have too. I have too.
that is not the game I want to play. That's not why I logged in.
And I have done it where I've got like 100 things in my bag and I start on Wowhead. Toenail of troll. There's one. All right, go to the next one. There's two. That's enough for now. 98 more for next time. It's crazy.
I mean, I think the people who don't struggle with this are just thinking, well, why don't they just delete the stuff? I think that's the answer. I think you just don't care.
And you definitely could. And
a lot of it we inherited from early WoW, where there would be like this one trinket where the devs didn't realize how powerful it would be 3 XPEX later. But they know how to design those things now. They don't make trinkets that like restore a percentage of your health anymore. They don't make trinkets that make you immune to all abilities anymore. It's like,
right.
That stuff we can vendor it. We can. Let's do it.
Yeah. I have like the head of Onyxia in my bank. You know.
Well, I would just put that in my bag and go turn it in and finish the quest.
But no, like another one. Like I've already finished it. I've gotten the achievements and everything. But it's like a head of Onyxia. I'm not gonna get rid of that. I've got weird, when you get like the weird trinket that like turns you into a mouse. It's like, yeah, I should probably vendor that. But I want to turn into a mouse someday. I don't know. But it does. There's still just mental energy, even for the easy things. I would love a Marie Kondo. I've got her picture up on the screen. NPC that you go to in the game, and she would like pop up a tooltip on everything. You could like tell her what sparks joy for you, and she would just flag everything like, these spark joy, these do not. Vendor all of this stuff. These put in the bank somewhere because for you they spark joy, and you're done. You're good. I would pay real world dollars for that service.
Forrester brings up a great point. Is like ESO has like a crafting bag and gear sticker ways of like categorizing and storing that take no space. But so does WoW, and so does Star Wars: The Old Republic. It's.
But you're right. They need more. If everything could be that.
That is not what I was gonna say.
Oh.
I was gonna say they can't fix my brain with those systems. Like, yes, I do think they could do more, like especially in Star Wars: The Old Republic, the way they do outfits. I wish they wouldn't make me keep the armor piece
Right.
somewhere. I'm never going to find it again anyway if I want to redo that outfit. So whatever. Um, but yes, and WoW did come out with a reagent bag, and Star Wars does have. Remember when that ability to store all your mats came out? We thought, oh my
Mhm.
gosh, this is going to fix everything. My banks and bags and everything are full again, and it's not with
I know.
mats.
Well, because they add new things. They had, it's like
Yeah, I mean,
currency and tokens, and I
right.
mean,
Yeah,
the fitted.
the
This
fitted,
was like the
right.
worst. This is like the worst thing.
Yeah,
The
the fitted
fitted
stuff.
armor pieces,
That is the worst for me. Yeah, I don't understand how to. I don't understand what to do with it, and I don't.
which is
So
like a
I
transmog thing. It's like transmog armor pieces that you might want to keep around to create an outfit, and you do need the
it's
actual
like
piece in Star Wars: The Old Republic for the outfit.
it's like if Transmog and the devil had a baby.
Yeah.
It's this fitted stuff
Yeah,
because
the demon of
each
inventory management.
each piece takes up a slot. It doesn't go into collections.
And it's outfits that you will never make, and it's
Right,
styles that you
because
don't like, but you might someday.
you can't make an outfit because there's 3,000 of them.
Right.
So maybe I mean you can shop for the outfit.
But if
Well,
you
yeah.
sell them, then you don't have them, Stask. You can't sell them. You have to keep it in case someday you decided that you wanted to dress up like a janitor from Alderaan. So what you do is you roll another alt, and then that alt comes into existence, and it says, "What is my purpose?" And you say, "You store fitted items," and it
Yes.
says, "Oh my god," and it
Stats
cries
says
itself to sleep.
I've gotten a couple of crates too, I think from login rewards. But even then, what do I do with them? Because if I equip them on a character, then they're bound, right? Or no, I
Yeah.
guess they're not. I don't know.
If
But it's
if everything went into like a collections or
yeah, then I'd be happy.
if 100% of things were in collections and materials storage, and you like learned the pattern or whatever automatically, then you're done. Then
Like
it's great.
in WoW, they store all that stuff for you. However, you have to pay every time you get a gear upgrade, you have to repay to get your customized appearance applied back to that piece of gear.
Yeah.
I like how in Star Wars you can save a whole bunch of different outfits and just click between them.
Yeah.
But I don't like that you have to keep the physical stuff around.
Well, you
So
don't have to keep it after you've created the outfit, but if you ever want to recreate the outfit or
yes,
change
that's
it,
right.
or
You're right.
then
You're
you
right.
would.
That's
Yeah.
what I meant. I have to.
Yeah. Yeah. So I think the returning players, well, we're out of time to design the ideal system, but returning players
But yes,
need inventory management. That's the number one thing that we've
I mean,
decided.
literally, I feel like they have their pulse on learning the class and learning the world. This is the next frontier for them.
Right.
They have to figure out a way because I literally, like we said, it's kept me from playing games.
Right. I agree. And it's kept me from returning when I get back on my hunter or my druid in WoW, and it's got an inventory full of stuff and my eyes glaze over. Because I don't like cleaning my garage in the real world, and then to go have to do it in the virtual world as well.
I mean, and it's
It's
ironic
rough.
because half of your activity in MMOs is collecting stuff.
And determining if you got an upgrade and having the fun of seeing that you got an upgrade and comparing it to what you have. And I get it.
So they feel like they're rewarding us with this gear that there's WoW is that there's this gear they're sending us for free, and I'm like, but my inventory.
Yeah. Yeah. You're killing me here. You're killing me, Smalls. You're killing me. All right. Well, this was a fun discussion. I loved learning about WoW Remix and why I won't play it. But
It's
it
too
was fun.
fun.
I had fun for the couple hours that I played it, and I could see going
But
back just for fun.
I mean, I was gonna say it's too fun for you. You don't play for just fun.
I
You have
know.
to. I don't know. I don't know what it is you play for.
Well, I am really looking forward to War Within, and that's part of it too. So I could just go play it for fun, and I would potentially play it for fun, but then I will shift why I was going to play it, which was I'm expecting to have fun with War Within, and I was looking forward to using Remix to prepare for War Within.
Right. And
it
that was
won't
just a
do that.
misunderstanding.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But
That's not a
I'm
flaw
really
of War
I'm
Within
really
or with Remix.
enjoying the group content in Remix. That's all I do right now. Like one thing I've gotten really tired of in recent years in general for me is questing.
Yeah.
Especially a quest when I've done it recently or even in the past and I remember it. I just don't want a quest.
Yeah.
It's a weird thing for an MMO player to say, but I just feel like, oh,
Well,
I don't want to do this zone again.
This
And then
is why I like survival games. There's no questing. It's a sandbox.
yeah,
You just make your own
yeah,
way.
no, right.
Yeah, it's kind of cool.
I get that. But there's no starter experience, so they're hard to learn.
There is a starter experience. You're naked and alone and afraid, and you
Right.
pick up a rock, and then you live or die.
Right.
And
And your
that's up
friends
to
are all
you.
saying in your ear, "Oh, do this, do this, do this, do this, do this, do this, do this." I'm like, "Wait, I'm still trying to figure out how to pick up the
Yeah,
rock."
there's no catch-up mechanic. There is a new
Uh,
player experience, however brutal it might be. It's the
Right.
it's our Viva la Dirt League.
I want to survive.
Say it again.
I want to survive.
Louder.
I want to survive.
Come on.
I want to survive.
Like you mean it.
I want to survive.
Louder.
I want to survive.
You gotta want it, Sema. You gotta want it. And sometimes, after you've been eaten the 5th time in a row in 5 minutes by a raptor on the beach, you don't want it anymore.
And I mean, some survival games, all survival games, there is the inventory issue, but in some it's 10 times worse than others because you also have encumbrance.
Yes, but then maybe you just make like 100 boxes on the beach and just keep everything. We just keep making more boxes. All
Oh.
right. All right, we've learned about some catch-up mechanics. Comment about how wrong we are in our Discord and in the show notes and YouTube, and what your favorite game for both returning and catch-up mechanics are. I think that would be really fun
And
to
I
hear.
mean, I'm sure I left out some stuff about Remix, but I do recommend it. It is great fun.
Yeah, I definitely saw the fun. Again, kind of bringing that action RPG experience into the game, which I see MMO teams even explicitly saying we're trying to pull ARPG concepts into our game.
I
I'm getting the
don't
feel
know
of
what
that.
that means because there's no it's the same types of abilities. There's still tab targeting. It's still there's no like what I think of as action RPG.
Maybe not as much of the combat style, but you could probably even like limit what buttons you press because you're so overpowered and
And because you have no idea, like like on my rogue, I'm picking out these. I'm picking my spec thing, and it says, "Oh, adds 10% damage to this ability." I'm like, "What ability is that?"
Yeah.
I'm like, I don't care. Click.
I don't care.
I'll-
Doesn't matter. I'm gonna press
Right.
buttons and loot,
I mean,
and I get a bunch of loot. And
you can change your spec anytime. Once I do understand the classes, that's plenty of time to make
Yeah.
the perfect spec. I don't need to do it now.
Yeah. All right. So that is our theory. It is ours, and we have explained
we
our
own it.
theory. And if you would like more, all the feed and subscribe links are on newoverlords.com, and our video is up on YouTube/newoverlords. Please come chat with us, as we always say, in our Discord, newoverlords.com/Discord, and we'll keep you up to date on everything that's going on. We also post to all the social networks, so you can find us there too. And with that, we will talk to you soon.
Later, everyone.